All right, so this next one, second to last topic. This is one that is going to be a bit of a divergence from what we usually talk about, because we don't really discuss boxing on this channel. And I'm not even sure if I'm actually going to release this one, because there's been quite a few videos on this. And you know how I feel about boxing. I kind of mostly feel that, like, generally compared to MMA, it's clown shoes. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
No, it is.
Like, I'm gonna stick to that narrative. But I feel like we need to talk about Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
I feel like this boy has given us no choice. Now, just a little bit of a backstory for me. So this fight was supposed to take place at about 4 a.m. my time. But naturally, with this being a fucking boxing card, it ended up taking place about 2 hours later. So when it got to about 4:01 a.m., I realized that I didn't really care about this at all. And I decided to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in the morning expecting a certain result. And to my surprise, Ryan Garcia had not only won, but he beat the fuck out of Haney for the majority of the contest. Dropped him 3 times.
Yep.
Now, we know that Garcia's mental health was called heavily into question before the bout. A lot of his own doing. And judging from what was said after the fight, these actions seem to maybe have been a bit premeditated or even exaggerated to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I want to ask you is kind of like a 3-part question. What did you think of the fight? Is Garcia a genius that tricked us all, or a complete nutbar? And also, how big do you think he's going to be after all this?
So the fight itself, I think that Devin Haney, who is super structured and does things by the book and is very vanilla as far as his personality, that's just not the guy that he thought was coming into the fight. And I think he let his guard down, like, metaphorically. He let his guard down. He came in and just didn't think that he was fighting Ryan Garcia. He thought he was fighting a lesser version of Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia, who did miss weight, so he didn't have to go through the weight cut the way that was intended. Nevertheless, he beat the crap out of that man, and he came in and he was a lot more ready than Devin thought. I think it's almost like a boy who cried wolf type of thing. He tricked him and destroyed him. So I think that it was a great fight, to be honest. It was great. Normally we don't say that about, boxing, but it's just what it was. Now, as far as Ryan as a personality and what he kind of brings to the sport, it's almost like he brings the way that Oscar De La Hoya acts right now into the sport. He's like a little Oscar clone, you know what I'm saying?
That fucking guy.
That dude is so weird. But it's refreshing, because if you look at all the other big stars in the sport, they're very PC. Yeah, they say cuss words or whatever, but like they say the right things. You look at Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Terrence Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, Canelo.
Can say about anyone, really.
All of these people.
The only one who might be comparable is maybe Tyson Fury to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's about the only person.
He just says stuff that's out of pocket. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it shows in how popular he has become. He's had his own show on Netflix. Like, dude's super popular, and I feel like Ryan is going to get some opportunities that he wouldn't have gotten before, because of his quirkiness, his weirdness. People will identify with him to a certain extent. Now, if he goes too far, like, like they said, you can't ever go full retard, and like he can't go all the way. You know what I'm saying? Can't go too far. But if he sticks kind of in this sweet spot, this sweet weird spot, and he keeps delivering amazing performances, like dude's not too far away from being the face of boxing. For real.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I feel like with this one there's a lot to unpack, because like, first of all, in terms of like the actual, first of all, the fight was great, and the one thing that I really regret is obviously I did go back and watch the entire fight, but you know, it's obviously different when you know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And even though I watched the entire fight, and I managed to still enjoy it, I can only imagine how much more fun it would have been if I'd seen it live.
Yeah, true.
Like, I regret not staying up for it and watching it. But I mean, it was fucking 6 o'clock in the morning.
I thought it was going to be boring, like, honestly. And that's why, like, I didn't see it in real time either. And so I was like, I was assuming when I woke up, it's the first thing I checked for, you know, to see, you know, how did Devin Haney win this fight? Did he just pinch him and run away for 12 rounds? And I was just
Haney is
surprised.
very defensive as a boxer, so you kind of, and because everyone assumed Haney was going to win, everyone assumed it was going to be that kind of fight, even though, you know, watching any Ryan Garcia fight, the guy comes forward. Do you know what I mean? He's not like Ryan Garcia, for all his flaws as a boxer, and he does have many of them, nobody can say the guy isn't exciting and doesn't bring it.
No,
but like, I always felt that I was one of those people, you know, when Haney was being compared to the likes of like Shakur Stevenson even, or Terence Crawford and Tank, and he was put in with those names, I always thought it was ridiculous, because like I saw him fight Lomachenko the fight before this one, and I thought Lomachenko soundly out technically boxed him. And obviously Lomachenko is amazing, but from what I saw from Haney, I'm like, I think Tank and those guys are of a different level. Like, they're more comparable to Loma in that way.
Yeah,
you can make a strong case that Tank is one of the best pound for pound out there in that weight class. I don't think Haney's at that level. So while I didn't go as far as to say that I thought Garcia was going to win, because obviously with all the fucking circus surrounding it, I did feel that Haney was overrated. And I felt like a humbling was coming for him. I didn't think it was going to be here, but I felt like it was going to come. So maybe I wasn't as overly surprised as a lot of people were. Like, I don't dislike the guy or anything. I just think he's a bit overrated. Yeah. For me though, considering everything that's happened, I think that you saying Garcia might become the biggest star in boxing after all this, he might kind of already be there. Like, if you ignore his ability as a fighter for a second, as a personality, this dude is exactly what boxing needs. He's massive on social media. He understands the game, kind of. He does ramble and talk like a lot of nonsensical bullshit quite a lot. But to be honest, it's quite entertaining. And it's very attention garnering. Like, I'm going to throw up a couple of tweets on the screen now at this juncture, because to be honest, explaining it's not really going to do it any justice. I'll just show you a little recap of kind of the stuff he's been saying. Even the day before the fight, he came out with 20 or 30 things that were just fucking odd. Yeah. But it's funny, it's provocative, it's stupid, but I enjoy it. It's like a guilty pleasure. I think like the part with Ryan though, where I really started to take a shine to this dude, you know, when he had that face off with Haney quite recently, where they were both in the room together, and I can't remember who was interviewing them in between, but they kind of, you know, they had the little face off where they, you know, the typical thing they do in boxing, basically. You know, he was like, the weird thing about Garcia that I can't quite get my head around here, he seems to be like relentlessly arrogant, but kind of like vulnerable in ways as well that are kind of really endearing. Yeah. Like, he's almost like unapologetically honest, like almost to a fault at times. And I kind of have to give Haney a bit of credit for being that way to an extent too, because they were both kind of like that. You know, and in a sport like boxing that is so ego driven, it was personally awesome to see both these guys be so open about where they got one over on each other, because obviously they've got a lot of experience against each other in the amateurs.
Bro, how bad did I beat the shit out of you?
You never beat the shit out of me.
Stop it, bro.
You never beat the shit out of me.
Really
no, you won that fight though. You won that fight.
For sure.
You did. I give you that.
I feel like I dominated.
He went in there and he jumped on me. I wasn't ready.
Right off the rip.
He surprised me that fight. I'm not gonna lie.
So then
after that, I've been woke. I remember that. I still remember that to this day. So I'll never let him do that again.
No, and then I tried to do it again. It didn't work. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And again, Haney deserves credit for that as well. Like admitting when they were wrong. And the thing I like about Garcia is he's both complimentary and somehow equally derogatory in equal amounts, which must be really confusing to deal with because he'll say stuff like, yeah, you were really good there. And then he'll diss him like a second later. And when people do that, because he's so honest, it kind of makes it more impactful. And it doesn't just seem like he's being disingenuous because he's saying, oh, yeah, you're good here, but like you're shit here. So it makes what he says carry more weight. Mm-hmm. And he's also very honest about his own flaws and his limitations. He's brutally unapologetic about the way he lives his life. Like he says it openly, like, I drink, I smoke. This is not the optimal or smart way that a professional fighter should behave. But the thing I like about him the most, and the reason why I think he's going to be a star, is because exactly what you said. It's that based attitude. I don't think he doesn't just say he doesn't give a fuck about what people thinks about him. He really lives it. Like it feels genuine.
Yeah.
And in a landscape right now where we've got fucking, it's just about kind of like social justice warriors out there, and there's almost an embarrassment now or a shame about having strong male heterosexual views.
Yeah.
Like there's almost a shame around that now. When guys like this come out and they say what they think and they don't give a fuck, it's attractive to people who feel like, because people like you and me feel like we've been marginalized to an extent. And this guy's coming out and being like, no, fuck it. This is how I feel about, he's just saying what he thinks.
Yeah. It's the Sean Strickland effect.
It's the Sean, and it's showing that this is what I feel like we're building up to now. These guys that are willing to say what they think and how they feel, they're going to be superstars because it's exactly what we need as people who feel like, it's crazy to think that we feel like we've been marginalized because it was just 10 years ago that we felt like we were the dominant force. Do you know what I mean? But lately the way that movies have gone and, oh, you can't say this or you can't say that.
Yeah.
We feel like suddenly we live in a time when we're walking on eggshells. And I mean, personally, from watching this channel and from interacting with me, that's why I like this guy, because I'm somebody who in my general life I don't really give a fuck as well.
Yeah.
Like, so he's somebody who's personally appealing to me. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
I don't think so.
I think there's a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah, I definitely don't think so. I think his numbers from a social media aspect have exploded. And it is because of those things. He's different. People love different. They love to be intrigued.
I do think he's a little bit crazy, but I do think he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he was faking it and then he was using it to get Haney off his game. I don't think it was that. Nobody's that smart.
No.
But I do think it was exaggerated.
Yeah, he probably upped it a little bit, but
he just dialed it up to 11.
I mean, it worked. It worked, man. And
it worked.
You know what sucks about boxing too? And well, two things I would bring up. What sucks about boxing is the fact that Devin Haney lost, and now people are going to start to completely write him off. That really sucks.
Now that O's gone, that's it. It's already started.
I hate that about boxing. But Ryan winning.
They said it about Ryan Garcia.
It does bring up something very interesting. Ryan Garcia, a while back, after he lost to Tank, one of the fights that he mentioned having was against a UFC champion. It was against Sugar Sean O'Malley. Now, because of how big Ryan has gotten, and if Sean, let's say Sean goes in and sparks Merab, I don't expect that to happen, but let's just say it did. What do you think the interest would be in that fight? Because obviously you got to get the UFC to be like, we can't miss on this fight.
I think it would be enormous.
Yeah.
I think it would be, and I think it could potentially happen. I think it would take more than Sean sparking up Merab. I think he'd have to beat Merab and then potentially Ilya as well. I think if he beat both those guys,
yeah, then there would be
he would be like boom, boom, boom. He'd be like Conor level, but in terms of not in terms of personality, social media wise, definitely. Because Sean O'Malley is not a fighting star. This sounds weird to say, but he's a social media star.
Yep.
He is, like, the numbers he brings in on that side of that's why the UFC love him so much, because he brings a demographic, and that's what people don't seem to understand. It's business.
Yep,
this guy brings the numbers. He's in with the younger crowd. He's bringing in that next generation of the audience that the UFC hasn't quite captured yet. The majority of the UFC audience is our age, like 30 over. They need that young generation to come in. I think if he beats Merab and he beats Ilya, that could very well potentially happen. I can see it.
Yeah, and to put that into to actual numbers, just so people know, Sugar Sean has 4.2 million followers on Instagram, which is the same amount that Max Holloway has now that he got the bump from 300. So if that lets you know the amount of pull he has from a social media perspective, like, dude's bigger than a lot of people give him credit for. And that's not just because I like Sean as a fighter. That's the numbers. The numbers say that.
The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that would be a massive.
I think it would be. I think it's great that you brought it up, because I didn't even. I know that the call out did happen, and they both spoke about each other. You can see the path to it.
Yeah.
And I think it would, and I think Dana's definitely more receptive to it than he's ever been. I think that if the money talks, once he's got what he's got out of Sean O'Malley from a UFC perspective, Dana loves boxing. I can see it happening.
Yep, I can see it.
Another funny sidebar I want to add as well, just as I know a lot of people obviously know about this, but the cherry on the cake of all this for me was obviously the missing weight. And then, you know how in a lot of we hear this all the time in boxing, when people say, oh, if you beat me, I'm going to retire. And we've heard people say, when I win, I'm going to donate my whole purse to charity. I'm looking at Fury in particular for that one, and it always turns out to be complete bullshit.
Yeah.
This kid told Haney, for every pound I miss overweight, I'm going to pay you $500,000. He missed the 3 pounds, and then literally that night sent him the 1.5.
Yeah.
And Haney confirmed that. And then the very same night, he bet 2 million on himself.
Yeah.
At plus 600, and made $12 million. Or 13, I think it was, on top of his fight purse.
He knew.
That to me is just fucking outrageous.
Dude, that's movie shit. That is so.
From the drinking the beer, whether it was a beer or not, doing that in the way, this guy knows how to sell a fight.
Yeah.
So for me, all the shenanigans leading up to it, the things he did at the weigh-ins, the betting on himself, the paying for the missed weight, all of it. And then the way he just calmly dropped it down after the fight finished and was like, yeah, man, I played that guy. I'm not fucking crazy. I wanted him to think I was fucked so I could take advantage. I was like, God damn, this guy isn't a star. He's a fucking superstar.
Yeah. No, that was impressive.
Like, he's doing everything differently.
The whole thing was impressive.
Whether it was contrived or not, it worked.
It worked.
And I've got nothing but respect for it. Yeah. I think he is the face of boxing right now. I really think he is.
Hard to argue.
Because if you think about the guys who were there, who would you have? Canelo. You'd have who is obviously huge in a certain market.
He is huge. And from here, being in Texas, like, he's massive here. But at the same time, his success is a little bit dependent on who he fights now, because everybody knows that he's not going to fight anybody that has a major name because of where he sits. The Triple G fights they're gone at this point. So who's he going to fight that's got a name that's going to make it interesting? They mentioned him fighting Bud Crawford at some point, but that's not a.
It's not a thing. The weights are just completely.
It's way too different in weights. So
was there like 3-4 weight classes apart?
Yeah, it's something absurd.
Something like that.
So
he's running out of steam in that regard. But that's
He
the
is.
thing. The beauty of the Ryan Garcia situation is what you said about boxing almost doesn't apply to him. You know, when you lose that O, he lost his O, and he's bigger than ever.
yep, it's the rare.
For him, it's not going to be
instance.
about the. He's gonna bring boxing to a place that what the UFC has been doing for quite a few years to get where they are. It's not about really winning and losing. It's about the hype, the build up, the shenanigans, and then the thing is with Ryan Garcia, he's gonna get chinned a couple of times. He will because of the way that he fights, but he's exciting to watch. He doesn't hype it up and then go in there and fight like a bitch. He goes in there and he swings for the fences.
Yeah,
And not in like a retarded kind of style. He does it in a calculated way. You know, I will say this though, like I do think that things are going to end badly for him. Like I think what's going to end up happening is he's going to end up like having a very... The highs are going to be very high and the lows are going to be very, very low.
Yeah.
That's
We've
what I think's
seen
gonna
some
happen with him.
boxing multiple times where a fighter just, it's like a shooting star. Like they blow up and then
This is going to be
they
it.
crash and burn magnificently, and it's going to be the same.
You can
way
see
here.
it, can't you? It's going to be like he's the next cautionary tale waiting to happen in waiting. In 7-8 years from now, it probably won't even take that long. It's going to be like he's a coked up madman who's like, there's going to be, you can see the trajectory of where his career is going to go.
Yeah,
But
we've
it's going to
already
be a
seen
hell
this
of a
movie.
ride. And I, for one, choo choo, baby. I'm on board. I don't know about you.
Absolutely.